Good evening, everyone.
Lotharaf, how are you?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. Okay, I think we're starting a new chapter. So it says here, כל שהודקר בעמו תפלה, מברך על העיקר ופותר את התפלה. The rule is like this: whatever you have a main food, the main dish, and you have a side something on the side, you bless on the main dish and you absolve whatever is on the side. Where does this come from? This is Bit Yosef, Mishnah Perek Ketzad Mevarchin. It's in Brachot Mem Dal Amud Aleph. מה שכתב, ולא מבעיה אם יקר מעורב עם הטפל, אלא אפילו עם כל אחד לבדו. So it says not only if they're mixed together, but even if they're separate. But since you're eating them together, it's still considered to be like one dish, whatever. So therefore, you bless on the main one and you absolve the side one. So it says Bit Yosef regarding that, Ken mashma sham gabe hayu lefanav tzenon v'zait. That's the way it implies there regarding this issue with that he had radish and olives. Mem Aleph Amud Aleph. V'chen piresh sham harosh. That's what it says in the Rosh there. Gabe dvarim habayim betoch haseuda. Regarding things that come in the midst of the meal. Okay, so what else we got? Yeah, so then it says v'afilu pat shehu chashuv mikol im hu tafel. So it says even bread, right? That it's more prominent than all the other foods, but nevertheless, if it's the side dish, that particular case, so what happens is that we don't bless on the bread. There are actually cases like this, brought in the Talmud. These cases are very rare, but they do exist, So anyway, he says regarding this, the Beit Yosef, he brings a source for this. Where is this? Mishnah. It's also there. The Mishnah. Katava Kobo says the Kobo Tzarich Iyun. So he says it needs to be investigated. That which we said, right, that you bless on the main food and absolve the side dish. Regarding the blessing before, im potro gamken mibaracha shel acharei. Does that also absolve the after blessing as well? Adkan is the question that he asks. Leshono v'li nireh. So it seems to me, he says the bar the bar pashut. So it says it's obvious. Kashem shepoter mibaracha lefanea. Just like it absolves you from the blessing before, kach poter mibaracha shel acharei. It also absolves the blessing afterwards. Vesugyan de alma achihu. So he said that's the way it is in the topic matter there. V'achi mashma be'edya. So that's the way it implied explicitly. Midiyamar Papa. The Papa said dvarim habayim betoch haseuda mechamat haseuda, things which come during the meal, within the meal, and because of the meal, enam teonim bracha. They don't need a blessing. Lo lifneim v'lo lacharem, whether it's before or after. Okay, great. Let's move on. So he says, Katab Agur, says the Agur, Beshem Or Zarua, and this name of this rabbi, Dehana Mile Kishat Sinon Ikar. He says, that's, when does that apply? When the radish is the main dish there. The Chaviv, and it's also more, he likes that more. Aval Imat Sinon Ikar, but if the the main thing there is the radish, Velo Chaviv, but it's not the preferred one, Mevarech al Zait. So then he says, you bless on the olive, and you're going to bless on the radish afterwards. So he says it's better to make more blessings. He says you shouldn't right abolish whatever the blessings like that. Okay, that's interesting. Um, okay, good. Katuba Tumat Addition says in the Tumat Addition. על הרוצה לשתות יין וקשה לו לשתות. So it says regarding somebody who wants to drink wine, and it's hard for him to do so. Ariba rekana, they can't do it on an empty stomach. Umevino machal, so therefore they bring some, food in order that he should be able to, drink the wine better. Show mamtika shtia, that it improves the drinking. Ve'af al gav de lechora en tzarich levarech ala machal. So it says even though that apparently he doesn't have to bless on the food, right? Me'achar shehu tefillah. Why? Because it's the side dish there. It's the subordinate food there. Layain, it's subordinate to the wine. Ka'id tznon, just like the issue with the radishes, the zait and the olives. Yesh lechalek benehem. So he says, but you have to differentiate between them. Ta'atam haikar ne'echal kodem. So he says because there. Um, the main thing is eaten before. I'm sorry, I didn't say it right. The subordinate is eaten before. The echitachen she patereno ekar. So he says, then how is it possible they should absolve the main thing afterwards in his blessing? Lemafreya, right, to retroactively. Because he already, has enjoyed it without a blessing. Okay. Omnam Matzati says, however, I found הוא עתק כזה מתשובת אור הזרוע, that it was copied over from the tshuva the Or Zarua. אותם שאוכלים גרעיני גודגניות. So it says those who eat the pits of the cherries, כדי למתק השתייה, in order to sweeten the drinking, the drinks, אינו מברך עליהם בורא פרי העץ. You don't bless בורא פרי העץ on that. כמו שמברכים על כל גרעיני פירות. Like we bless with when it comes to other the pits of the fruits, hailan of the tree. אלא מברך עליהם שהכל. This is rather what we do is we bless shakol on that. הואיל והן באים רק למתק השתייה, because they come just to sweeten the drink. So in other words, it makes it drinkable, and like that, Okay, so me'acha mashma the benidon didan nami mevarech al ma'achal shakol. So it says here it implies that also in our discussion you bless shakol on the afilu im birkato binyan acher, even though the blessing is different. Aval eno patur legamre, but it says not absolved altogether from blessing. Mechamat bracha shtia, birkat shtia, because of the blessing of the drinks. Shehu ikar, that's the main blessing. But tzarich lechalek ben hahid etznon, so it says you have to differentiate between that issue with radish and zait and the olives, kemo chilakti, just like I differentiated, he says. That's what you gotta do. Okay, so this was who? This was Hagur. Okay. Then we had Trumat Edition, right? This was Trumat Edition. And then we had Orzarua. So we had several things going on here. Okay, fantastic. So Me'acha Mashma de Benidin Dinan. So says Bet Yosef, right? You learn from this in our discussion. Nami bevarech ala machal shakol. What you're going to do is also here, you're going to bless shakol on the food. In birkato binyan acher. If the blessing is an abnormal situation, uncommon. Aval eno batur legamre, but it's not altogether absolved. Mechamat birkat hashtia, because of the blessing of the drink. Shawikar, which is the main thing there. It's lechalek ben hahid etznon v'zayt kemo shechilakti. So you have to differentiate that between that case and this case and that case of the radish and the olives, like we differentiated. So it says Bet Yosef now. It seems to me that according to Mash Katav Rabbeinu Besof Siman Reshud, that which two wrote in the end of chapter 210, B'Shem Marosh Nim Larosh, the Bishvil Chisaron HaShiur Lo Shayach Bo Bracha Acheret. So he says, right, that because of the lack of size, it's not relevant to make a different blessing because of that. Hachanami Bishvil Shabal Matika Shtia. Here also, when it comes to sweeten the drink, Lo Tishtane Birkato. So the blessing will not change because of that. Okay, so that was Aleph. So let's go to Shulchan Aruch, see what we got there. But this is from the last chapter. We have to bring it up. New chapter, got to bring it up. Okay, so it says here in Aleph, Kol she'udkar be'emot tefillah. As you said, that when you have the main food and you have the side dish, so he explains, right? What does that mean, side dish? That it's not something, important by itself, prominent by itself. Mevorech alai kar poter al tefillah. So what you do is you bless on the main dish and you absolve the side dish. Ben bibracha shelefanea, ben bibracha shelacharea. Whether it's the initial blessing or the after blessing. Lo mibaya im haikar meorav im tafel. Not only in case where it's mixed up together, ela afilu kol echad levado, even if it's separate, right? It's not mixed together. So like a classic case would be, let's say you have some schnitzel with some rice on the side, so they're not really together; they're separate. But nevertheless, right? We only bless on one, and we absolve the other. That's a pretty good case, right? To illustrate that. So, which one do we bless on? By the way, we bless on the rice and not on the chicken. And the reason is because the rice satiates and the chicken does not really satiate. So therefore that becomes the main dish. Even though we really want the chicken more, but it doesn't satiate the chicken. It definitely does nourish though, right? Nourishment and satiation is not the same thing. Two different things. Okay, let's move on. So then he says, so this applies even with bread, which is the most prominent food, as we already mentioned several times. Im tafel kegon shalchal dag maliach. But if it happens to be right in this particular eating, happens to be the subordinate food, the side dish. How would that be a subordinate food? The bread, right? How does that work? So it gives you an example, right? Which is that what? You're eating salty fish, and you eat the ochel patimo, you eat bread with it together. So why does he do that? Because because the fish is very sharp. So he's just like he's um he's making the fish edible by eating it with bread. So in a case like that, um, we bless on the fish because that's the main thing there. And the bread, you're not coming to eat the bread for satiation. You're coming it just to the dilute the taste of the fish, which is very very strong. So in a case like that, the fish becomes the main thing there. This is rare. It usually is not like that. Um, in the Talmud, by the way, it gives a different example of this, which is that in the old days in Eretz Israel, they used to have, as we mentioned already a couple of times, they used to have very high quality fruit. Like extremely luscious fruits they had in those days, especially in those days. So they were so luscious, says the Gemara, that just to break the taste of the fruit, you had to eat some bread with it, right? So that's why they ate it, not because to get satiated, because they had to break the taste. It was too strong. The fruit taste of the fruit was too potent. Can you imagine such a thing like that? So today, we don't have this kind of a thing, but in those days they had it. And again, right, the reason is because the fruits in Eretz Israel were like extremely, unique, something you don't find anywhere else. That's what we're talking about. So in a case like that, right, with the fish or with the fruits, the bread becomes a subordinate food, the side dish there, and the main dish there is the fish or the fruit. Believe it or not. Okay, so that's something interesting. Let's go to the Ramah, but before we get to Ramah, right? Just the point is what that since the bread here is like a side dish, therefore you don't bless on the bread. You bless on the fish. You bless on the fruit. That's what you do. Okay, so let's see the Ramah. So says the Ramah, "Yesh omrim she'im tafil chaviv alav." But some say, right, if he likes the side dish more, mevarech alav, then he should bless on that. V'achar kach mevarech al ikar, and then on the main thing, right? But the truth is, we don't paskin this way. We paskin that always the main dish you bless on. Fine. So where does he get this from, the Ramah? This is from what we saw in Bet Yosef, the Agur, and the name of the Or Zarua. That's where it came from. Okay, fine. So then he goes on. That which we say, right, that we bless on the main dish and we absolve the side dish. That's when he eats them together. Or he eats the main thing first. But if he's eating, right, the side dish first, כגון שרוצה לשתות ורוצה לאכול, for instance, let's say he wants to drink and eat, תחילה before, כדי שלא ישתה על ליבה ריקנה, in order that he shouldn't drink on an empty stomach, או שאוכל גרעיני גולגניות למתק השתייה, or he's eating, right, these pits, to sweeten the drink. מברך על האוכל תחילה, so there it's going to bless on the food first. אף על פי שהוא, even though um, that it's tafel, that it's the subordinate dish, it's the side dish, לשתייה, to the drink. ואינו מברך עליו רק שהכל. So therefore, what does he do? He blesses shakol on that thing. הואיל והוא תפל לדבר אחר. Why? Because it's the subordinate dish, side dish, to something else. So this is from the Tumat edition. Okay, yeah, so we also saw that in the Bet Yosef, but so let me review this one more time, make sure we understand everything here. So as we said, right, the main concept is like this. When you eat something which is the main dish, you bless on the main dish and you absolve the side dish. When it's whether it's the first blessing or the final blessing, בין בברכה שלפניה, בין מברכה שלאחריה. לא מבעיה אם העיקר מעורב בנטפל. Right, so he says, even if it's not mixed together, right, they're separate, but nevertheless he's eating them together, so therefore he blesses on one and absolves the other. And so then he brings the issue with the bread, right, as we said, sometimes the bread could be the side dish, right, which is not very usual, but there are a couple of cases that this can happen. Nowadays, by the way, I don't really see anybody doing this kind of eating. I don't really see that today. This was something, probably in the older generations, and not probably for sure. Right, they had this concept, but today I don't really see anybody who does this. Okay, whatever. It's very interesting. Fantastic. So now we go to Rama again. Right, and says the Rama, Yeshomim, some say that if he likes the side dish more, he blesses on that. He doesn't bless on the main dish. But as we said, right, we don't paskin like this. Otherwise, it would be quite a confusing situation. You have two conflicting things going on here. That's one thing. Then brings the Rama that which we said, right, that we bless on the main thing and not on the side dish. That's if he's eating them together. But if he's eating one, the side dish, and then the main dish, he has to bless on the side dish. Now, so do you guys understand why he has to bless on the side dish here? If he eats that first? Anybody have any clue?
He would be putting, if you were blessing on the other thing and then not eating it, he would be putting, like, doing something in between, right? Like something would interpose.
So the thing is like this, that since you're eating the side dish first and you're enjoying it, you can't enjoy it without a blessing. This is the problem. So that in that case, you have to bless on the side dish. And then you gotta also bless on the main dish. That's why they say, if you really want to eat the side dish first, if that's your intention, you can bless on the side dish, and eat that first. Start eating that first. Sometimes I do that, because I just want that right now, and then I'll do the main dish later. You know,
If the main dish is ready though, is it better? Is it preferable to bless on the main dish, just take a bite of it and then switch to the side dish?
it is preferable, but with the exception of what? That you don't want that now. You want this, right? So if that's the case, you want this now, you have to bless on it. There's no other way because you're enjoying it, right? So how can you enjoy it without blessing on it? This is the problem.
Yeah, but like if we were to say, I don't know, I mean, I know we're talking about other things, but like if we were to say, we say hamotzi and we take like a little piece of bread, and maybe then we eat our soup, we eat our salad, we might not go back to the bread for a while.
Yeah, that's true. But that's okay, But the thing is, let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example, right? Let's say you're having a meal, right? And you're gonna have bread, but they bought you some, beforehand, right? Some fruit salad, whatever, one of those appetizers, they bring at the events, So you want to eat that right before you wash your hands for the bread. Obviously, you have to bless on that. That's what we're saying. You know what I mean? Something like that. Because even though it's a part of the meal, so right, so called, somewhat, but nevertheless, you're having it before the bread. So that applies also to other things as well. If you're having that first, like I'll give you a more simple example, right? For instance, let's say you're having what do you call it, some main dish, with French fries, right? So usually what we're gonna do is, we won't bless on the French fries because it's a side dish, you know. But if you want to eat the French fries first, you got to bless on it. That's something else because you can't just eat it without blessing. So there are many examples like that, right? You could think of. Okay, so yeah, something like that. So that's what the Rama is talking about here. And then, um, what else does he say here? About it. Okay, that's good. Unfortunately, I think I mentioned this before, but I've seen, like even rabbis who are, supposed to be very knowledgeable, they don't know these laws. They don't know about it. They bless on everything. Like it's like telling them, like you don't bless on everything. You don't do that. They don't understand. They're too busy becoming Dayanim, but they don't know laws of blessings. Kind of strange. Okay, whatever, right? That's the way it is. So that's Aleph. Okay, so we have another one, Bet, in this chapter. So we'll go there. This is also a very interesting halacha. We've had some interesting discussions about this in the Kollel in Israel. We had some. I'll tell you guys what we spoke about, but first I gotta do the basic halacha before. So it says over here like this, right in the Turim. Bet כתב הכל בו מרקחת שמוצאים על הרקיקין דקין אותם רקיקין הבו תפלה מרקחת שהדבר ידוע שאין באים שם לאכול הלחם ואותם רקיקין אינם באים אלא לדבק המרקחת עליהם כדי שלא יטנפו הידיים בדבש שילקח הווה להרקיק תפלה או ברכת המרקחת פותרה, right? So this interesting thing that it's talking about. You have this kind of like a jam, jelly, kind of thing. And in those days, right, what they did was they used to put this jam on top of like wafers, these like thin wafers, and they would eat that together. So says the this rabbi, the kolbo, right? So question is, what do you bless, right? Do you bless on the wafers or do you bless on the jam? So the surprise is, right, the punchline over here is that he says you bless on the jam and not on the wafers. But you would think, right, wafers are mezonot, so you would think you should bless on that. So comes and tells you the kolbo, it's not so. Why? Because those wafers are just coming to hold up the jam. In other words, you need something to hold the jam. That's what it's about, Like we today, we eat jam with spoons, right? That's how we do it. You take a spoon. But in those days, they weren't using spoons for some reason. They put it on top of wafers, and they would eat like that. So he says, right, the main dish over there is the jam. You don't really want the wafers. You just need to hold it up. That's the whole thing. So therefore, you bless on the jam and not on the wafers, he says. Okay, great. So what else we got here? Let's go see in the tour inside. There's some things here. So it says the tour like this. Have you lefanav yain v'shemen tov? Let's say they brought, right, some wine and also some nice fragrant oil or something like that. Li'ariach bo, to smell it. Ochez yain b'mino. So how do you do this, right? How do you bless on these things? So he says, what you do is you hold the wine in your right hand and you bless on that, Borei Pei Giffen, and so then you're going to take the oil in your right hand and bless on that. Okay, so the question is, what is he coming to teach you here? In other words, what's the big chidush here? So let's see what Yosef, he'll probably explain. Let's see what we got. So it says Bet Yosef, Beso Per Ketzad Mevarchin, right? It's brought down there in Brachot, Mem Gimel Amud Bet. Tan Rabbanan, right? Rabbis taught, have you lefanav shemen v'yain? Right? It says there that they brought before him wine and oil. Bet Shemai Omrim Ochezet Hashemen Bimino. So Bet Shemai says, you know what? Hold the oil with your right hand, and Betayan Bismalo, and the wine with your left hand. Uvarech al Hashemen. You bless first on the oil, the Choser Uvarech al and then you bless on the wine. But Hillel Omrim Ochezet Yain Bimino. But Hillel says you hold the wine with your right hand, Bet Hashemen, and the wine, the oil. Bismillah with your left hand. First you bless on the wine and then on the oil. Pirish Rashi, so we see machloket, right? Bet Shema, Bet Hillel. So let's see what we're talking about here, right? What the theory is behind this. So he says, Rashi explains, Shemen bimino lefi shalav mevarech techila. Says the reason why you take the wine with your right hand is because you bless on that first. V'yadua de halacha kebet Hillel, and it's known, right, that the halacha is like Bet Hillel. Oh, okay. Where is that? Eruvin Yud Gimel Amud Bet. V'chen pasku aposkim. The poskim also pass like that. V'zeh lashon Mordechai, right? It says Mordechai notel et hayayin b'mino. He takes the white wine with his right hand. Katav Rabbiya umino nishma. So he says you learn from there. Says Rabbiya. Shekol bracha shel davar mitzvah rawi lo she'achos b'mino. That any blessing, right, which is a mitzvah issue, it's proper to hold it with your right hand. V'chen Havdalah ochezet yain biyamin. Same thing when it comes to Havdalah. You're going to hold the wine with your right hand. Right? You're going to bless Borei Pei Gefen on that. And then you take the myrtle, biyamin, with the right hand. v'yayin bismolo, and then the wine with the left hand. V'rech alai das, and then you're going to bless on the myrtle. U'machazir yayin limino, and then you're going to return the wine to the right hand. Adkan, that's the way it ends. So it seems like he says the Ravia explains that when he taught the Choser U'Barech Alai Shemen, that you got to go back and bless on the oil. Hainu Lomar means to say Shemachazik Shemen b'mino, that he holds the oil with his right hand. Peshat Abracha, when he blesses. Birkat Hashem, when he blesses on the oil. Kashem Shayayin b'mino, just like the wine is going to be in the right hand. Peshat Birkat Hayan, when he blesses on the wine. V'kachem divrei Rabbeinu. So he says that is the way the words of the tour. Okay, great. Okay. So, by the way, do you guys know why is it that we bless with the holding with things with the right hand? What's wrong with the left hand? So, just to explain to you a little bit, the thing is like this: that the right hand is, the stronger hand, right? If you're a righty, which most people are, I guess, whatever, right? So that's why it's better to hold it with your right hand, which is the main hand, the main. Yeah. So why is it the main hand? Because it's stronger. But the truth is, that it's a little bit deeper than that. Um, I tell people sometimes that when I was born, when I was a kid, I think I was naturally a lefty, and then my parents forced me to do with the right, to do everything with the right. And in the old days, this was like very common. The parents would force the child to switch to the right because this was like a known custom. That we don't want children to be a lefty, right? Left-handed. So what's wrong with being left-handed? So the answer is, that the right side is, is a chesed, right? Kindness, according to Kabbalah. The left side is din, judgment. So we prefer kindness to judgment. That's what it is, According to the Torah, this is the way it is. So therefore, we want the right hand to be stronger, the main hand, which is kindness, so that kindness should overcome the judgment. So why is that? Because this is the way we want the world to be run, right? We want the kindness to overpower the judgment, because otherwise the world cannot exist. With too much, when the judgments are too strong, the world cannot exist. It's too powerful. So we want the kindness to overcome the judgment, and this is the reason why we want people to be right-handed. We prefer that because we want him to be oriented in the proper way, right? That the kindness should be, stronger than the judgment. Because judgment, is associated also with, the side of evil, right? Because the side of evil is where the judgment comes from. And, the side of good, right, which is the right side, that's where the kindness comes from. So, right, all these associations that I'm telling you, this is the reason why we prefer people should be right-handed. And also we prefer, as we said, right, that we want, when we make blessings, to hold those things, or when we do a mitzvah also, right, to hold those things with the right hand, because of all these issues. Okay, so that's the way it works. So we have a little bit more here in the Bet Yosef. It says, "Rabbeinu, Bashkatav Rabbeinu le'ariach bo." So that which the Torah said, right, to smell the fragrant oil. Ken katvu sham Tosfot. That's what it says in Tosfot. Gabe haviu lefanav shemen be'adas. When it says there, right, that they brought before him myrtle and fragrant oil. De'eh le'avir et hazohama. So if you're going to tell me it's because it removes the filth, right? The oil, cleanses the hands, whatever. I'm reading out of Perek Elu Devarim, but we said, right, in this Perek, Brachot Nun Gimel Amud Aleph, then Mevarachin Elav, we don't bless on that. Uh, Things that remove a bad smell, we don't bless on that. מכל מקום, איני יודע מה עניין דין זה. But he says, still, I don't understand what this didn't have to do until Siman Zeh, right? He says, I don't know what the connection is with this chapter. Okay, well, that's interesting, right? He says, I'm not really sure why they put this, they bunched it up here in this chapter, this whole halakha. Um, so, I don't even know why he's asking this question, by the way. Well, he's going to answer it here. See, the Tosfot was asking this question. I could answer this question. In fact, I just did. Right? Whatever I told you, right? That's the answer. So, because there's an issue of priorities here, which is which resembles the issue of priorities that we spoke about regarding the foods, the main food, right? The side dish, all that stuff. It's the same concept. ושמא משום בסימן שקודם זה היה בברכות זה מין קודם לחברו. So he says maybe because of the priorities that we spoke about, right? Which do you bless on first? וסימן זה היה בשמין אחד עיקר. So he says in this chapter it's talking about where one species is the main dish. והשני תפילה, and the other one is a side dish. ומברכים על העיקר, so we bless on the main dish ופותר את התפילה and absolve the side dish, right? סמך זה דין בא לענות ממשקה וריח, על איזה מהם מברך תחילה. So he says therefore he bunched it up together to tell you, right, which one you're supposed to bless on first. Because of the priorities. So here also it's a matter of priorities. That the wine comes before the fragrant oil. Okay, great. Fantastic. So let's see the Shulchan Aruch here. So it says like this, right? If you remember, this is an interesting halacha, as we said. As we said, right? You have jam, right? And you're putting it on wafers to eat them like that, right? So as we said, right, that those wafers are subordinate to the jam. So it's because we're not really coming here to eat the wafers. It's just it's just holding up the jam. It's very convenient just to hold it like that, with your hand. You hold the wafer instead of getting your hands all soiled, right, by holding the jam. This whole idea. So therefore, the wafer, right, is the side dish here, and the main dish is the jam. Right. So okay, that's the idea. So now there are some interesting, right, details here that accompany this halakha, and it comes from Magen Avraham, right, who has here some commentary. So it says in Magen Avraham like this: although we just said, right, that the wafers are, the side dish here, and the jam is the main thing, because that's what you really want. So says Magen Avraham, but if there's a certain kind of a thing like this where you want both, right? You want the cookie, the wafer, whatever, and you also want the jam, right? Which is like the filling. So if that's the case, says Magen Avraham, you're gonna bless mezonot because you also want the cake as well, the wafer, right? Whatever it is, the cracker, whatever. So therefore, if you have like a cake, right? Several layers, and inside you have the filling, right? The fruit. So there, what are you going to bless? You're going to bless on the filling, or you're going to bless on the cake? So according to Magen Avraham, what he said, you're going to bless on the cake because you also want that as well. It's not just coming to hold up the filling. It in itself also you want that. So therefore, the blessing is going to be mezonot for this kind of a cake. So if it's something similar to that, you're not going to bless on the filling. You're going to bless on the cake because you want both. So they're both, important. Right? They're both prominent, whatever you want to call it, right? But in a case like that, the mezonot is more prominent because it satiates you. So therefore, you're going to bless mezonot. I remember, I'll tell you guys an interesting story that, as we said, when we were in the yeshiva, the kola there in Israel, what happened was that they brought this cake. Somebody brought it, to the kollel, as like a gift or something, whatever. And so it was like chocolate cake, with lots of chocolate filling. And on the bottom, there was like a layer of cake down there, but most of it was chocolate filling. So you've seen this before, right? Things like this, I'm sure. It resembles like a pie, basically, similar to a pie, but a little bit more of a cake there, cake layer on the bottom. So, the question was, what do you bless on there? Whatever. So, this we were, talking about this halacha. That was the whole thing, right? That is that, bottom layer of the cake, is that just coming up to hold up the chocolate, or the chocolate filling, or is it just, or you want the cake too? You know. So we got into a machloket there. The guys over there. Some of us said, right, the filling is the main thing there because it's a majority, and the cake, it's a small layer of cake on the bottom. We got the whole discussion there, but after thinking about it, really, like I've been thinking about this already for more than 10 years, 15 years, because that's when it happened. So I can tell you that after giving it a pretty decent thought, the halacha would be that it's mezonot, and the reason is because you want that bottom layer of cake as well, even though it's kind of thin. But it's not just coming to hold up the right, hold up the filling. It's in itself is also something you want. So again, right, it's a very borderline case, not really so clear, but okay, well, there's room to say like both ways, but I think the main idea there should be the bottom line, the conclusion should be that you want the cake too because it is substantial, somewhat, as opposed to these wafers here that we're talking about in this halacha. Those wafers are just coming to hold up the jam. I mean, they themselves, nobody wants that.
So if you had a pie and the pie crust was just there to hold the filling, you'd bless on the filling?
Right, exactly, but I don't know, my hunch is like, the people want the pie too. They want the crust too, Am I right? We're getting into the same discussion that we had 15 years ago. I think people do want the crust. So if that's the case, I think you have to bless mezonot, on the pie. Okay, think about that, sleep on it. Get back to me tomorrow. Okay. So, all right, fantastic. So, thanks for coming. Be blessed with wealth and health and happiness. Laila Tov, Chazak Baruch. We'll see you tomorrow. B'ezras Hashem. All the best.
God, Rav, thank you so much.
God bless.
Thank you, Rabbi.
All the best.